You cannot go any bigger than a 265/60/18. It just doesn't fit. Hey guys, welcome back to HRG Offroad, and today we have this wonderful 2022 Honda Ridgeline in some sort of a gray color. This thing is getting a 1.5-inch lift today, and I know you guys have seen this already, but this one's gonna be a little bit different. We're doing a rear high option on this one because he carries a 20-foot trailer, and he's actually traveling all around the country and up into Canada, and he needed a little bit of extra height in the back so that it doesn't sag. So if you use your Ridgeline for an actual truck and you want to have a little bit more load carrying capacity, you want to put that higher spacer in the back. Now, the spacers are actually 1.5 and 1.5, which is counterintuitive. It seems like it would be a level lift, but you got to remember the front is a McPherson design. That means the strut connects to the wheel. It all moves together. So it's an 1.5-inch spacer, 1.5-inch of lift. In the back, however, you've got multi-link suspension, which means that the strut does not connect to the wheel. It connects to an arm. And when you push the arm down sort of towards the middle here, imagine this is your rear lower, your wheel's out here. When you lift it 1.5 inches from here, it actually lifts more than 1.5 inches. You get that little bit of gain from the multi-link suspension. So I wanted to do a quick before and after on this one, and we're gonna do a measurement and just see where we're at after we do a 1.5, 1.5 combo on this old 22 Ridgeline here. First thing I'm gonna do is measure the height before the lift kit. So we're at about 32.5 and about 32.75 in the back. Now you notice this guy does have a humongous generator back here, which we're not gonna move, probably about 400 pounds. So he's already got a bunch of weight. Now normally this truck would sit a little bit higher in the back than it is today. We should get an additional 2 to 2.5 inches of lift back here. So this is all the stuff you're gonna need to do just the front of the installation. We got our sway bar links, lift spacer, we've got a light, magnet just in case you drop the nuts into the cowl. Pry bar, you're gonna need some pliers, screwdriver, impact obviously, Allen key, lug wrench. So various sockets, we've got a 10, 12, 19, a 14, and then there's a 17 around here somewhere. A number 3 Phillips, that's for taking the screw that holds the brake rotors on. Definitely don't want to use a number 2 because it will strip it out. Ours were so stuck and we ended up having to use this number 3 bit with a ratchet and a 1/4-inch drive. There's actually a special tool for that, but we don't have it, so just improvise that. You want to WD-40 all the stuff that you're going to be taking off. I usually just spray whatever looks rusty, but that is a great help. Let that soak for a little while. Makes sure all the bolts will come off easy. Nothing special here, it's just basic hand tools, but we're going to go ahead and get started on the front. All right, the first step is going to be remove these little plastic caps that conceal the nuts that hold the strut to the strut tower. For those of you that don't know, which I'm sure most of you do, but Hondas have what's called a service position on their hood prop. So you can actually push this way up here and then lock it right there. You're going to have to do that to be able to get an impact down on these nuts right here. Can't get through one of these videos without saying these nuts. There you go. And if you lose one, you just grab you a magnet. Yeah, and you can grab them out of there, but you should be able to get them. So what you do is unclip it, side of the nut, and then it just comes out like that. All right, so this next part is basically a two-person job. One of you has to pry down on this lower control arm. You're gonna need one of these. You're gonna pry downward, and the other person is going to hit this with a hammer. But what you're trying to do is dislodge this ball joint from this hub. So sometimes you have to hit it a couple more times than you think, but it'll always come out. You just have to shock it a little bit. And that is the safest way to take it apart versus a pickle fork. Pickle fork just ruins the grease boot. You don't want to do that. And then we're going to take the nut off that's holding it at the top and just take this entire assembly out as one piece. Okay.
You got it?
Most of you are going to know this already, but those of you who don't, these are made to spin. They turn. When you turn the steering wheel, these turn along with it, right? So these are meant to spin. There's a bearing in there. So all you have to do is turn it 180 degrees and it will go right back in the car. And if you notice how much longer these ones are than the ones on the kit, so what you're going to do is keep the stock ones and you're going to put those right back on the stock studs just like that. Now you can get them nice and tight. Now this is the part where in most instructions it just says put everything back together in reverse order of removal, but we're going to actually take you through it step by step so you can see there are some things you have to do differently on the way in than when we take it apart. Not gonna lie, this is the most difficult part of this installation. You're gonna need two people, you're gonna need a pry bar, you're gonna need a lot of patience. But what the idea is you want that lower ball joint to angle out and get it up underneath the wheel hub. But to do that, you have to get the axle seated into the hub first. So once the axle is kind of in there, you can then maneuver around the hub to get the ball joint to kind of go under it. And then at that point, you can shuffle it into place and the ball joint will pop in. We'll try to make it look easy. It isn't easy, but we've done it a couple times, so hopefully what we've learned from trial and error will save you some trouble. So now what you're trying to do is get the axle to seat. There it is. And then angle that ball joint toward the outside. There you go. See how it got lower? Now you can get it up underneath there. Nope, it's using my right shoulder. All right, now I can take a little bit of a breather. I've got it sort of in place. What we're gonna do at this point is get another bite on it, and then we're going to push the whole unit that way, and you'll watch the ball joint pop in place. Okay, ready?
Yep. It's good. Not good.
How do we get the other side in?
I don't know.
I mean, it's almost there. I don't understand why it's not. I don't understand. Well, the other side just went right in. This is probably a good thing for you guys to see this because this is definitely fighting us. We already did the other side and it went right in. All right, well, I guess we're just gonna tell the customer we can't put the lift kit on, give him his money back, buy him a new truck. I don't know any other way to do this.
2,000 years later.
Oh! You catch that on video? I couldn't tell you how that just happened, but basically what I did was I just turned this and it went into place. And that might be what we had on the other side, was that this has to be turned a particular way. All right, this customer's getting a set of wheel spacers as well, which helps a little bit with your clearance. Also gives it a little bit more aggressive of a look. And I know that a lot of you in the comments right now are gonna say that wheel spacers are always bad. And yeah, I get they have a bad rap. Mainly it's because if you don't have the proper spacer that's machined to fit the car, it's on a lug centering system, which means it doesn't actually fit the hub. It's centered with the lug nuts. And if you do it that way, there's a chance that it could be off center and therefore cause vibrations and all that crap. But the ones that we make, these are HRG's wheel spacers. These are machined specifically to fit this hub center. So they're called hub centric wheel spacers. And as you see, they go on really, really snug. Look at that. There's no play. There's no concern about misalignment or anything like that. Now, the other thing you got to remember is you don't want to over tighten these studs onto the wheel spacer. I usually put them at about 90 foot-pounds. And then same goes for these studs when you put the wheel on. Although you can't control what people do. Might be some tech someday that puts a full-on 18-volt Milwaukee ugga-dugga for a half an hour on them, and that might over-tighten them, but what are you going to do? It's going to mess something up anyways. There it is. That ain't going nowhere. One thing I forgot to mention when we were putting the front together is that you want to check the brake dust shields. Sometimes these will actually get bent a little bit and then come in contact with your brake rotor, and it'll make a really horrible noise when you drive down the road. I think we're good on that side. We'll check this side. Yeah, hear that? So I'm gonna actually pull this back a little bit. All right, that's just a last little thing to check. Probably should have done that before I put the wheels on, but never too late. This is all the stuff you're going to need for the rear installation. You're going to definitely need this pry bar. We got a 24 millimeter, 19 millimeter, 14 millimeter to get the nuts off for the rear strut. And then you've got your lug nut tools. You've got 2 rear spacers. Each of these come with M10 by whatever these are. That's really it. It's super easy. The back takes 1/10 of the time as the front. So it'll be a quick and easy job. And see, that's just going to go right in. Now, as you can see, these are longer, but you have to be very, very careful putting these in. I always want to thread them in by hand first before you go ahead and tighten them.
That's not lined up. Or maybe it is.
All right, now I want to point something out. We had a customer who had an issue with this rubbing. There's enough room here, enough play that it would allow it to touch in certain circumstances. So what you want to do is push it all the way towards the inside of the car. And that's going to prevent it from making any contact. So I'm going to push inward on this.
More.
Yep. We'll have to go forward, probably. There we go. Hey, look at that. Oh yeah. Just take a flathead screwdriver or some kind of screwdriver, and then you can pry that hole into place, and the bolt should go right in. I think you might be able to get the bolt in now, actually. Yeah, what you can do at this point is use the threads to pull it in. Or yeah, there you go. Now we gotta do the other side, and that's it. Oh God, look at this. All right, that's pretty much it for the installation. Now the last thing we're gonna do before we send this on its way is we're gonna do one last measurement. We measure it right where we were before, And we have rolled this back and forth to settle the suspension. So we're right at about 30, almost 34 in the front, well, 34 3/4 in the back. So we're about 3/4 of an inch high in the back, maybe a little more. Of course, he's got a 500-pound generator in the back, so that doesn't help us. If you didn't have that generator back there, you'd probably be another inch higher than that. So you just have to picture in your mind the rake being a little higher. If you are interested in this lift for the 2017 all the way to 2024 Ridgeline, we do have them in stock at HRGOffroad.com. So as you know, the Ridgeline comes with a 245 60/18. If you want to go to a bigger tire, you could do a 255 or as big as a 265 60/18. You cannot go any bigger than a 265 60/18. It just doesn't fit. If you want to try it, go ahead. I've seen people try a 265 65, but you got to cut a bunch of stuff. So if you don't want to cut a bunch of stuff, 265 60/18. That's as big as you can go. But right now we just got the stock size on here. Customer just bought these tires recently, so we're gonna just leave them on. He does plan in the future to put some bigger ones on there, but I think these are good for now. But yeah, it looks good. I like the way this thing turned out. A little bit higher in the back as you want with a pickup, so you have that load carrying capacity. Now keep in mind, like I said, it's got a 500-pound generator in the back, weighing it down just a little bit. So your results may vary somewhat from this. That's pretty much it, guys. I appreciate you watching to the end, and I'll see you in the next video. And if you are interested in this lift kit for the 1971 Ridgeline, that would have been cool. Because this guy, look at this guy, always in the shot. Get out of the shot. It's all right, we'll fix it in post.